What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're rewinding time to 2 decades ago, all the way back to 2005 when Fox announced Elektra. Imagine it's the mid-2000s and there's a film being led by a female assassin. Now if you're a 2000s kid, you'll never understand how huge that was, and boy was I excited. Not just because it was Elektra, but also because Jennifer Garner was all set to play her. If you haven't watched it, you absolutely have to because she looks incredible. But when we talk about superhero films today, Elektra's gotten lost in the shadows, except for the cameo in the recent Deadpool Wolverine film. So what the hell happened? Well, keep watching and you'll find out. Okay, so let's quickly recap the film. We've got Elektra Nachios, who's an insanely skilled assassin but with a pretty complicated past. You see, she actually died, or rather was killed in Daredevil. No, not the TV show with Charlie Cox, but rather the 2003 film Daredevil. I won't go into the plot of that film now, but all you need to know is that there was a whole showdown between Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil, and Wilson Fisk, and Bullseye. And Elektra gets caught in the middle of it all, eventually meeting her end at the hands of Bullseye. So how's she back? Well, remember Stick? You know, the blind martial arts mentor of Daredevil who walks around with a stick. He revives Elektra and trains her in the ancient art of Kimagure, which gives people precognition and the ability to bring back people from the dead, just as Stick revived Elektra. Oh, and what is precognition? It's this superhero sort of ability to sense the future. But Elektra is nothing if not a troublemaker, or at least a troubled soul. Despite all the training, she was struggling psychologically with letting go of her anger and fear from having seen her mother's killer when she was just a child. Naturally, Stick gives up on her and kicks her out of the compound, but she doesn't let that overcome her. Elektra takes all her abilities and newly learned skills to become an assassin and contract killer, and that brings us right back to the present. Many years have passed and she's now a full-time contractor. The story begins when she receives an unusually large contract to hire her, but with a twist. She has to spend a few days in a random rented home on the island where she's supposed to carry out the assassinations, and only then will she get the names and details of her targets. Weird request, right? Now while she's doing her due diligence in that little house, she runs into this little girl called Abby and her father, Mark Miller. She even goes to dinner at their house, spends Christmas with them, and develops a romantic interest in Mark. I mean, there was some serious, subtle flirting going on between those two. And hey, good for Elektra, especially considering her tragic relationship with Daredevil. In the 2003 film, Matt Murdock falls in love with Elektra, and they have a whole thing going on, but then it gets complicated when Elektra's father is murdered and Daredevil's framed for it. Yeah, basically, shit goes south real quick, and it looks like her luck isn't turning anytime soon. Remember the target names that were yet to be revealed? Well, it was Mark and his daughter Abby. Of course, Elektra couldn't bring herself to kill them, and she spared them and ran away, but she couldn't exactly outrun the Hand. I'll give some context to anyone that's new here. The Hand is like this secret, shadowy, ancient ninja clan. They're super obsessed with power. If you've watched the Daredevil series, then you must be familiar with it. They're literally everywhere and always watching. Why do they want to kill a little girl? Well, it's because she's the treasure, a child martial arts prodigy whose power can be used by the Hand. Fun fact, even Elektra was a treasure when she was a child, and that's what ended up causing her mother's death. Well, I guess that was not a fun fact, but more a sad fact. But anyway, they don't stop when Elektra fails her mission. They send even more assassins. Fortunately, Elektra returns and protects them, and the story continues as she fights the forces of the Hand and tries to save this little family, even if she couldn't save her own parents. She even gets a chance at redemption as she finally comes face to face with her mother's killer. Come on, tell me that doesn't sound compelling. It does, right? But unfortunately the execution is where it all went wrong. You see, there was a whole lot of hype surrounding the film. After all, it already had a fan base and a premise from its prequel film, Daredevil. And not to mention that Daredevil actually did pretty well in box office terms. Not too well critically, but it made over $215 million worldwide. So the precedent and the market were clearly already there. And add to that Jennifer Garner, who was definitely one of the standouts in Daredevil. Plus, she was already doing a whole lot of films in Hollywood and had clearly established herself as a reliable lead. I mean, do I have to mention 13 going on 30? Because I loved that film, and I'm sure so did many others. So she was a great fit for the film both stylistically and also physically. And Fox wanted to take advantage of the slowly increasing popularity of superhero films. Mind you, this was right before the Marvel boom, so the genre was still far from saturated. They marketed the film completely on Garner's back, pushing her allure, her sleek assassin look, and her action and stunts. Everything seemed glossy and cool and flashy as hell. The stars seemed to be aligning, but things did not go as planned. Clearly. You see, long-term fans, especially of the comic, noticed how Elektra felt bland. In the comics, Frank Miller's run had given Elektra whole new layers, complexity, contradictions, and lore that can make you cry and smash things all at the same time. She wasn't just some ninja in red, she was an emotionally complex individual who lived in the grey, and that's what I really enjoyed about her. All my favourite superheroes and comic characters are the ones who go through stuff, have a rough life, and have complexity. Probably why I liked the recent Superman far more than the previous adaptations, because let's be honest, he's way too goody two-shoes. But anyway, with Elektra, the films gave her none of it, no depth, nada. She was all style and no substance, and that's when the hype met harsh reality. The behind-the-scenes status of the film was an absolute mess. Production was all over the place. Why? Because there was literally no time. The thing is, Marvel had been trying to adapt Elektra's story from the comics for a really long time, from literally 1987. Even Frank Miller was brought on board to write the screenplay along with director Oliver Stone, but the live adaptation did not pan out, and the rights to the character were eventually sold off to 20th Century Fox. But obviously that wasn't the end. Then finally came Daredevil, which included Elektra's character, making it the perfect time for a spin-off sequel of sorts with Elektra center stage. And they already had Garner signed on, but the issue was that Garner no longer wanted to do the film and was just making time for it because of contractual obligations. She had a pretty busy schedule and could only find a teeny tiny amount of time during her hiatus from the television show Alias. How much time, you ask? Only 62 days, or around 10 weeks. Imagine that, filming a whole ass film that's like 1.5 hours long in only 10 weeks. That's just a little over 2 months. But production had no other choice. Their budget wasn't all that bad, with somewhere around $43 to $65 million. But when you consider the tight production time, the crazy schedules, the action choreography, the reshoots and the post-production fixes, you realise how little the budget truly was. I mean, with 10 weeks, I don't think there's any budget in the world that could have made it a success. But anyway, director Rob Bowman later admitted that the film simply didn't have any time on its hands to give the final polishes that superhero films deserve. Remember how good Spider-Man looked back in 2002? Yeah, this was nothing like that. So many scenes even got cut just to avoid an R rating. Now, since we are talking about the final look of the film, let's discuss the editing and CGI a bit. The editing is pretty bad, guys. It's super choppy and really doesn't look too professional. The film uses a lot of slow motion technique, which was pretty big back then, especially with The Matrix, but it doesn't even use it well. It's way too overused and it just stops having any effect on you eventually. If anything, a lot of the fight scenes just aren't able to pick up any speed and tension because of the constant slow-mo shots. It killed the momentum and also just looked funny as hell. And don't even get me started on the CGI. Scenes such as Electra jumping out of a well in slow-mo, it looks so cheesy that even for 2005 standards, it was completely unacceptable. And that was the era of some prime action. Just think of The Matrix or even the choreography in the Bourne films. The bar was super high and Electra didn't even come close. And that's really sad because despite the time constraints, Jennifer Garner really did try and give her best. She trained and committed to the role, but the circumstances just weren't it. Even the soundtracks were often clashing with the tone of the film. It also didn't help that the script and screenplay strayed from the comics with the addition of new concepts, like Kimagure, which low-key alienated the comic fans. And critics, boy, they were brutal. I mean, you've got to expect it when the screenwriter himself says that 30 seconds into the movie you're like, oh fuck. I literally to this day am still so embarrassed by that movie. I probably shouldn't say this, but I know Jennifer Garner is too. And these sentiments were echoed on Rotten Tomatoes, where the film had an approval rating of 11%, and Metacritic, where it had a score of 34 out of 100. Even Roger Ebert said, and I quote, "Plays like a collision between leftover bits and pieces of Marvel superhero stories. It can't decide what tone to strike." There seemed to be consensus among critics that Jennifer Garner had the gusto and the star quality, but just could not overcome the script's issues. Unfortunately, the box office situation was no better. The film struggled and only made $24 million domestically, and worldwide it raked in around $56 million, which really isn't a lot. Their net profit after paying theatres was like $31.1 million, which doesn't even cover the initial budget. So you can imagine what a loss this film was. Many critics even theorized that this film ruined Jennifer Garner's career and prevented any hopes of seeing a female protagonist-led superhero film for at least a decade. I mean, we're still kind of struggling on that part even today. And it's sad, but that's the legacy left behind by Electra. There was a director's cut that tried to increase polish and fix some of the issues. There's only so much it could have done. There was also supposed to be a video game on Electra based on the film, but to no one's surprise, the idea was not deemed as profitable, or popular for that matter. I mean, why would anyone take that chance after the abysmal results of the film? Hey, a mobile game based on the film was released though. Eventually, the character of Electra has resurfaced on our screens. A new and definitely better version of her was portrayed by Ella DeYoung in Daredevil and The Defenders, and this version was easily more compelling, complicated, darker and full of shades of grey. Clearly the character wasn't the problem. The film just didn't commit, and all that was left of the OG film version of the character was a cameo in Deadpool vs Wolverine, and a sad excuse for a send-off. And hey, I think Electra was a warning sign for all superhero studios. Don't rush films, because that was the problem. Not that it had a female lead or people weren't interested in the character, but the execution just did not meet the mark. It was lazy and rushed. I still liked watching the film when I was younger because of Jennifer Garner, but I was also too young back then to notice the horrible CGI. Rewatching it as an adult really opens your eyes. The only thing that could possibly carry the film is nostalgia, but even that's tough. What did you guys think? Let us know in the comments down below, and as always, remember to smash the like button if you enjoyed the video and subscribe to our channel for more such film legacy breakdowns. We'll see you next time.